I'm Dale, and I'm joined by Mike on this Sunday. Hello, Mike.
Howdy. I am now. You may notice that I will come in and out and be less than totally, or I should say, pixelated, more or less pixelated, depending on my bandwidth conditions, because I have a intermittent internet connection.
It's a euphemism for he's always pixelated. How will we know the difference?
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
No, look, the thing is that I was having internet problems this morning. Not my fault. Some of you have been having them as well. Now it's Mike's turn, and so there may be times that he is slow or Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer true. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. So there may just be some times where Mike doesn't seem like he's up with the rest of us.
Mm, yes.
So every once in a while, he may be a little slow in the uptake, so I'll stop saying things to him like, hey, real quick now, Mike, what's your answer to this?
Well, it won't be much different than my normal self, to be honest, because I'm a little slow on the uptake. I do in-depth analysis. I'm just very slow at it.
That's it. Yeah, but he reads the documents.
Yes.
Okay, so today
Yes.
is Sunday, March the 15th, which is the Ides of March. And so, in tribute to both um, William Shakespeare and our chairman, Keith Heck, I will read a little bit for you. Oh, this will be funny. From Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. This is a tribute
Okay.
to Keith Heck.
Yeah,
Upon
yeah,
what
and Keith Heck is not the guy that you're pointing at. So you're used to pointing at the guy on the screen, and it's usually the person that you're referring to. But you were pointing at me when you were saying Keith Heck.
Oh, okay, because this guy over my shoulder is not Keith Heck. And so what Cassius says to Brutus is he says, upon what meat doth this, our Caesar feed? He is grown so great. Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus. And we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves in Ashland. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are perceived by Keith Heck as underlings.
Yes, that's right. That's and how how true
Appropriate?
that is
Yes.
now, and appropriate. Yes, uh, yes. That's exactly why we're in the condition that we're in, is because we have decided that it's not very important to fully verify the character of our public servants.
Well, that's why we're going to start doing a little something on Monday until we grow tired of it. If you do, well, I'm sorry. But every Monday we're going to be talking about what would it be like if you had a commissioner, or let's say two commissioners. Ooh, who could they be? Well, we're going to pick Mike and Dale and talk a little bit about who we are and why we'd make terrible commissioners, and what could make us better. What would be best in a commissioner? We've talked a lot about, and this conversation will go on beyond the levy. The levy will eventually be over. Don't forget to vote, whichever way you're going to vote. I mean, you can be dumb or smart. Vote any way you want to, dumb or smart. Uh,
Yes.
but what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit on Mondays about what would make. See, I'm warning you ahead of time. Don't turn that up. Don't, no, no, not on Mondays. We're going to talk a little bit about what would a couple of really good commissioners be. What would they be like, and how would they treat the citizens, and what does transparency mean in another world other than ours? It's been like this for generations here. How could people possibly change the kind of government that they have, and what attributes For what attributes should you look? I can't put this in proper English. What attributes should you look for?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Now, so some of the things that we normally play back for you, we haven't always done it this way, but it's kind of fun to do this. We won't be able to do that quite tonight. We're going to do that on another night when this character has more bandwidth. But it's just a euphemism. You know what I mean. So in this case, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen. For example, here is the front page of the Daily Courier. Woo, pretty cool, huh? And one of the things
Yes.
written by that ace journalist, you know who I'm talking about, Jim Moore, is there's an article in there about why. In fact, the front page of the Courier this weekend was filled full of articles about
Yes.
crime and why we need to vote for a levy and why all the smart
Yeah.
people are voting for a levy as opposed to the dumb people who over and over and over and over again don't need a poll. They know what they want and what they don't want.
I ca-
Go ahead.
I call it their Levy Palooza edition.
Oh, that's nice. So part of the part
Yeah.
the part under the headline, above the fold. Ooh, all this tech talk. Above the fold is the newspaper, the front part of the newspaper that's above where it folds, and the subtitle is a long sentence. Some places tired of repeat offenders. I'm tired of those repeat offenders, so I'm going to vote to raise my property taxes. Some places tired of repeat offenders have built new jails to address the problem, while local officials cross their fingers that May's safety levy will pass. I'm just so excited for them crossing their fingers this time. They've tried everything else. So cross your fingers, boys.
Well,
Maybe the May levy will pass. Go ahead.
we already have a bigger jail.
But they need this thing to pass because people don't know what they really think. Mike, I know that you say that when people are ready for a levy, when they've had enough of crime and or their perception of crime, their personal crime is high enough that they'll vote. But they don't know their own minds, Mike. They need to be led by leaders such as Keith
Right.
Heck and Cheryl Walker and Simon Hare. I mean,
And the
they know
entire front
better.
page of the Courier.
They know better than we do, Mike. Get with
Yes.
the program. So here's the first sentence. City officials fed up with repeat offenders committing the same crimes with impunity because they know they won't go to jail due to budget cuts decide to take action. Sound familiar? Yeah, you know what? How about county officials who repeat the same crimes? We've caught them. We pointed out to them, you're breaking state law. They do it with impunity because there's nobody to enforce that law. Sound familiar?
Yes.
I mean, really, if you're going to have a deputy there that's there to defend the commissioners, how about removing Keith Heck when he starts calling us names? That would be nice. Okay.
Sure.
That certainly describes Grants Pass in 2013 and 14 when the city council voted to spend roughly $1 million to lease beds from the financially challenged Josephine County Jail. The summary paragraph is, in Josephine County, if the latest countywide public safety doesn't pass, why do they never talk about how it's going to be successful and we're going to reject this? They're always
You
talking
got
about
me.
how we're waiting. Oh, nice. Oh, put that up.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yes. It's up, and that's the and I can scroll the position of that here at some point if we're talking about a particular story. Well, no, that's back and forth. There we go.
Look at that.
Up and down. It's so high tech. It's so high tech. But that's the front page of the all crime all the time. It's the Levy Palooza edition of the Daily Courier in Grants Pass.
Wow. And it jumps to a digital page later in the newspaper that's almost an entire page given up to how we're all waiting for the levee to pass. We just can't wait. Why, if only people would see the light, they would realize in Josephine County, if the latest countywide public safety does pass in May, Grants Pass will once again be faced with the possibility of having to lease jail beds in order now I'm having a bandwidth problem. It's more of a mental problem. In order to of having to lease jail beds in order to prevent a recurrence of citing and releasing repeat offenders. You know, Mike, why is it that you just don't understand that the fact that people have asked for certain things and don't want other things, they don't know what's good for them?
Well, I'm interested because they kind of make it seem like now, if we pass the levy, we're actually going to keep some of these people in jail as opposed to citing them and releasing them. And I have not heard that. The sheriff has basically said to us that he just wants to make sure that everybody goes to jail. So what he's going to do is he's going to put them in the car. He's going to take them down to the sheriff's office, and then he's going to cite them and release them at the jail, which means that they'll be free on the streets unless someone comes to pick them up. Then criminals will be wandering around Grants Pass on their feet looking for something to steal.
Oh, and don't forget that he also confirmed at the meeting of the Oath Keepers that once they think you've done something wrong, and they arrest you, even if you're totally innocent, your picture and your tattoo or whatever, and your information will be in their system forever.
Yes.
Now, we've always suspected that. Haven't you all your life? This is the first time I've ever heard a law enforcement official say, "Yeah, oh yeah," and what you're kind of like, "Well, of course, yeah, you know, we'll keep you in there forever, even if you're innocent."
Yeah.
See, we're leading the way once again in this country. Once again, we're way out ahead of everybody else. We're not thinking that we're going to take you out of the system if you're innocent. We're going to keep you in there. And it fits right in with what the NSA is doing, doesn't it? Okay, thank you very much for that commentary, Mike Jones. So we were at a meeting of the Board of County Commissioners recently, and we're not going to play a video for you, but we do have a wonderful still. Why don't you put up that still and we'll talk about it?
Which one are we talking about?
That's the one with Andreas Blech sitting in front of the camera. To the best of his ability, he's trying to block the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, so we see the top of Andreas's head.
Not very well. Let's see if I can. Well, why don't you take that Sunday off of there just for a second? Can you do that?
Okay, for crying out loud. It's harder and harder and harder to please this guy.
Oh,
okay. There it is. You can see the top of his head.
Okay, so here's what happened when I walked in the door. See that little head that's down at the bottom, that furry little head down there with not enough hair on it? I should talk. So, thing is, when I walked in the door, there were a bunch of people filing in, and Andreas Blech was already there, sitting right next to where I usually set up the camera. Okay, it's a free world. It's a little odd because no one ever sits there because they don't want their head to be constantly in the picture. Andreas did want his head to be constantly in the picture. Really? Now, why would you want that? And he said to the people behind where I usually sit, he said to those people, when Dale turns the camera on, I'm going to block it by waving my arms and standing up in front of it. We've actually seen that happen at a meeting. Somebody from the Democrat Central Committee was very upset with the fact that we were asking questions of Cheryl Walker, and so they actually did exactly that to try to block the camera. You know, if you don't have any ideas that can compete in the marketplace of ideas, another thing you can do is just block the camera.
Yes, that's right.
I'm taking long pauses every once in a while, so Mike can jump in because he has limited
Oh yeah,
bandwidth.
and you're hoping that I'll jump in and
Okay,
yes,
like
that's a
usual.
great picture, Dale. That's fantastic. Now, I agree with your sentiment. Yes.
Okay, look, here's the point. The other reason I wanted to do it is Keith X says, how many people here are in support of this thing that we're going to sign today? And all these people put their hands up. It's critical of government in general. Okay, so I wanted you to see there's a fellow that's in the front row, and well, our front row. He's got kind of a bald head, and he's holding up his hand right next to his face. Now that's uh, who's this? Ford. Larry Ford? Yeah, that's Larry Ford. Now, Larry kept his hand up
Yes.
during, it seemed like half of the meeting, because he really, really wanted Keith Eck to call on him. Keith Eck is very likely to call on Larry Ford because Larry always has something positive and happy to say about the government. Okay, I suppose that's possible. Always?
Yes.
So this is the typical
He
percentage.
he kisses buttock.
Well,
That's what he does.
yeah, that's true. This is the typical
That's my okay.
See, if the fact that we're going to be talking over each other is going to happen just a little bit more today because he's on a delay, not only mental but also physical because of his internet connection. Long pause. Okay, so this is the typical ratio of government supporters to government questioners. I'm not saying that everybody's against the government, but they do have questions. And when you see the people holding up their hand, that little boy is not holding his hand, Batman's not holding up his hand, and Chuck Benson from Keijo is not holding up his hand, right? But you notice that other people are. This is the typical ratio of people who question their government these days versus the people who never question their government these days. Larry does every once in a while, but this is typical. This is more people showing up at the weekly business session than usual. It used to be just me. So now there's also Mike Jones.
Well,
It's twice as many of us.
and to and to be fair, this situation is a special circumstance that was going on here. They were going to pass a resolution reaffirming the Second Amendment verbiage that's in the charter, and that's a good thing. And
Right.
and the oath keepers turned up in numbers to support that.
This is what happens when a bunch of people show up because Cheryl Walker did not want to sign this thing, and she didn't. And Simon Hare said that these resolutions are useless, and before they came to the meeting, for a couple of weeks before the meeting, they weren't going to do it at all. And it was a lot of pressure from a lot of people in the community. Look, whether it's your issue or not your issue, what this illustrates is when a bunch of people show up and they make it very clear that what they feel about something, whether it's guns or animals or chemtrails or black helicopters or the Ides of March, whatever it is that they feel strongly about, if they put some pressure on their government by showing up at 5:30 at night, come on, you guys, they can actually exert some influence and turn this into a slightly better place. That's why this picture is there with this fuzzy head in the foreground.
Right.
I had to raise the camera up onto its little tiptoes in order to be able to see over this guy at all. Well, we succeeded.
Well, it's a good thing that you have a camera that has tiptoes.
Right. Well, as opposed to keeping it on my lap. Remember that rule? Hey, whatever happened to that rule? Do you remember when Cheryl Walker actually called the police because I wouldn't take the camera off the tripod and put it on my lap because of all the rules that they couldn't prove? And the police actually came. The police came. Don't they have something better to do? Of course they do. But Cheryl Walker called, you need to get right down here. They're not doing what I tell them to do. Have I had to keep this camera on my lap after that time at any point? No.
No.
What happened to that rule? Can't see you, Mike.
It
Unless you remember.
evaporated.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Yeah, the rule just evaporated. Oh, it was desperate. It was so desperate we had to call the police, and 3 officers showed up. So you can imagine the attitude that
Well,
she had.
in fairness here, we're seeing the exact same thing right now. We're seeing the male version of that with Keith Heck. He's just I mean, he's not calling, but he preemptively took care of the need for calling a cop by requesting that a deputy be there at all times during these meetings. So now they can respond right from the back of the room and stop the melee.
Now, the guy's not doing that, and he's not very friendly. He's not officer friendly, except to Keith Heck. He's very friendly with Keith Heck. That's amazing. But we asked the sheriff,
Mm.
now, why is this happening? He says, well, it's there. Your Sunday is down. That's not a euphemism. We asked the sheriff, what's up with this? Why
Yes.
is this?
You
Why is
told
this?
me to take the Sunday down.
But you can put it back up again. It's Sunday. It's an important day. Let's leave it.
Okay.
Okay, so no more of this atheism. So we asked the sheriff, why would you do that? He says, well, he's there in case his presence there has an effect on people that bad things don't happen. Paraphrasing, really? You think that's why? That people have always been just about as respectful as the commissioners deserve, better than they deserve. Thank you very much. But as Rika Brown pointed out, the commissioners could always demand respect, whether they've earned it or not. Thanks, Rika. Yep. What do you do? So was that the only picture? Was there another picture, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Another
Yeah, there
still?
is.
Oh, why don't you put up the other still, and
There's
then I'll remember what we're going to
there's
talk about.
Okay, hang on just a second because it's not cooperating with me. All right, here we go.
Oh,
Can you
of
see it
course.
now?
It's Mike. And Mike is singing, "Oh, solo mio." See his hand over his stomach? He really talks better with his hand over his stomach.
Yes.
When I'm
Right.
on the radio, I speak a lot better
Yes.
if I put one hand over my headphone like this. Hello, this is Dale Matthews. See what that does to my voice? Well, Mike gets better when he puts a hand
Yes.
over his stomach, and then he puts one hand out, and then
Mm.
see this guy in the background, Peter Gendron. He's an expert on marijuana. He's amazed at Mike, and he thinks when he sees Mike doing something like this or with a Hawaiian shirt that maybe he's found a kindred spirit.
Yes. Okay, if you say so. That's quite an imagination you have there.
It's
But
quite an
okay.
imagination. That's right. Well, what we're going to do another time is we're going to show you a little clip from that video where Pat Bath, who is the secretary, the treasurer, I think the secretary, she's on the Democrat Central Committee. She came in to give us a lecture. See, we never see Pat. So she knows everything happening at the weekly business session. And she came in to give us all a
Right.
lecture,
Yes.
not only about how Cheryl Walker is loved by 2/3 of the community. She was elected by almost exactly 50% of the community. She won by 62 votes. You've heard this 62 before. And now she's jetted up to 2/3 of the community. 66% of the community loves Cheryl Walker. They just think that she's doing a wonderful job. And we're so proud of her, as Pat Bath pointed out, from the Democrat Party. She's on the Central Committee. And she came to give us a lecture about somehow how local Democrats feel that you must come to the weekly business session and say, I'm not making this up. It's why I'm now an independent. Maybe not nationwide, but here locally, I'm an independent, buddy, because she came and she said, it's important to say positive things at these meetings in support of good government. Really? Boy.
Yes, and if you recall, this call for help was put out by Cheryl Walker because there was going to be people talking about the recall, and that's what this whole thing is all about. That you know, she came in to give her little speech in support of Cheryl Walker because it was right. It was just about time for the either the recall to kick off or the end of it, where the signatures were going to be counted. I forget which, to be honest.
So she felt she was trying to tell us all that the reason it was important to say positive things about government is that, well, you know, this is a weekly business session, and this is no time, as Keith Eck has reminded us again and again, this isn't your meeting, this is our meeting.
Sure.
Hey, but wait a minute, you've set aside time for citizens to bring their concerns to you. The right to petition your government? Oh, well, that's over with. Not in Josephine County. You don't have the right to petition your government. You can, as Judy Ahrens did, you can show up at Keith Heck's office, and then he starts yelling at her, at little Judy. You know, Judy may ask these little questions that irritate you. She may be irritating to some people. Never. But the idea that you need to yell at her, he's got a problem, Keith does, with women. Uppity women?
Yeah. He, I don't know that I would want to go into his office so that I could get a personal blasting as opposed to sharing it with the rest of the audience at the weekly business session. I think I would rather do that.
Oh, yes. I've told them, I said, I will, because I've been invited to their office, just like the principal inviting you to his office. I've offered to go, but I said, of course, I'll bring my camera. Oh, no, that's well, then I won't come. Then I'll talk to you on camera at the weekly business session. Okay, and just as you've never heard me saying any expletives and this kind of stuff, thank you, Dennis Weber of Parkway Christian Center. I never, ever have. I haven't seen anybody. The person that's come closest to that actually is Keith Heck. But you remember when Judy got up, and Judy's always, oh, I just want to know that, you know, she's very sweet and small. She might be asking you tough questions, but she's not yelling it. So Keith Heck lectures her in his office. She brought a witness, which was it made him very upset. But he was explaining to her how she was talking by yelling at her like this, and you were yelling at that meeting. You saw the video. You've seen Judy before. Judy is yelling at people. Maybe this is his perception. So the warning is never go see the commissioners in their offices. Never succumb to that temptation of doing that, because Judy's not the only one. I'm not the only one. There have been a number of people who've been mistreated in the office. Now, you think it's bad at the weekly business session. Imagine what's happening in the privacy of their office. Don't do it. It's a mistake. Judy went in thinking, well, you know, I'll be very sweet, what she is, and you know, and I'll bring a friend, and you know, she taught me, well, is she going to bring some cookies? She wasn't quite sure. She didn't do that, and she says, I'll never go back. What does it take to get somebody like Judy to totally give up on you? She never gives up on anybody. She hasn't even given up on Keijo.
Well, yes. Well, you know, oddly enough, I have that video if you ever want to see it. I don't know how well it's going to play, but I do have it.
Okay, let's go ahead and we'll try to play that, and we'll see how it goes. Here we go. Here's Judy. So far, not so good.
Is that what this is? Judy?
Isn't it? Oh, no, well, maybe
No.
this is another one. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Sandy Castanelli, Merlin, Oregon. Last week we had a presentation by Ron Fox about all the wonderful things Sorority is doing for the county. During my 3 minutes of public comment, I filled out that presentation by reviewing some of the more abysmal projects in which Sorority was involved. Examples included the Paradise Ranch boondoggle, which cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. The exact same rhetoric is now being spewed for the development of the industrial park in the same manner. I brought up Sorority's submittal of a mismatched Connect Oregon grant for padding invoices to the county and for its insistence that we go to administrative form of governance, even after the electorate had already rejected that concept. I ended up, as usual, with an invitation for comments or questions to me from the commissioners. None had any. But during Commissioner Walker's protected time at the end of the meeting, when no citizen rebuttal was possible, she stated, quote,
as far as Ms. Casanelli pointing fingers about what are we doing and wasting economic development money, that is not the case. And in case she has forgotten, she managed to get one of her friends' $25,000 grant to build a mineral lab, and there's never been a mineral lab built. So what happened to the $25,000? I think that that's something that people need to understand, that the accusations that she's making are purely for grandstanding.
It was, in fact, Michael Smith from SoreReady who made the $25,000 request of the board with the man in question. He was supposedly vetted by SoreReady and was not a friend of mine, as she stated.
Cheryl Walker decided that she was going to try to chastise Sandy Casanelli by making something up. She said that Sandy Casanelli, as a commissioner, was involved in handing out money to some friends. As a matter of fact, Sandy Casanelli was the only commissioner that opposed handing out money to those people. It was SoreReady, who Cheryl Walker was trying to defend, who brought those people to the commissioners. And they had in mind some kind of scheme where they were going to do some assays and etc. And Sandy Casanelli said, you know, I have an engineering background. This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think we should give this money to the people, to these people. And the other two commissioners outvoted her. So then for Cheryl Walker to say at this meeting, behind that microphone, after 62 votes of winning, that, oh, by the way, you know, I'm going to say something negative about that citizen. That's despicable.
If no mineral lab was subsequently built, Commissioner Walker might well ask why not at her next SoreReady board meeting. In an effort to defame my character, Commissioner Walker actually provided one more excellent example of a SoreReady failure. She helped make my point.
That's misuse of power. That's using a microphone to say a lie about somebody. It's bad enough that we get rephrased into things that are not true. It's really bad, it's comical that she picked this example because it's so exactly the opposite that it's fairly ludicrous. So, just to set the record straight, Sandy Casanelli did not hand out money to her friends. Some of you may be doing that now, but that's not what she did. Simon Hare said he didn't matter whether Manor Development out at the airport, what their background was. Manor Development, that Larry Osborne was one of the prime contributors, the top contributor to Simon Hare's campaign. But he never announced that. He didn't say, I have a potential conflict of interest. So it's not Sandy Casanelli that did it. She was doing the opposite. I don't know what we're going to do about this. Because when we have a commissioner that sits up there using that microphone and tells people on live television and in the audience a complete, absolute, utter lie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a question, and we're going to take a couple of minutes just to talk about that. Mike? So it can be someone is a loon. We've had a treasurer in the past that fit that description.
Mm-hmm.
It could be somebody that's a commissioner. We had a commissioner in the past. I'd call him Dave Toller, not mentioning by name. And they would just say the craziest things. And it was totally, absolutely, completely wrong and false and proven to be completely wrong. I guess in some communities this happens. I just can't get over the fact that we've got 3 of them now. But what do you do, really, anybody, what do you do when somebody has that microphone and just again and again just flat out lies? What do you do?
Well, you know, I mean, we tried to recall her, and unfortunately that was unsuccessful. And so we really don't have any other choice but to vote her out the next time she runs. And we should be preparing for this sort of thing now, because that's a couple of years away, and not quite a couple of years away. So I hope people are thinking about replacing. They really need to replace hack. It'd be nice to replace the whole bunch, but we got to wait another 2 years beyond 2016 to get rid of Simon. So.
Well, I think you need to go see Ward Ockenden, because he was one of the people that was instrumental in making sure that there was no choice to recall anybody but Cheryl Walker. So Keith Heck out, Simon Hare out, because all I can guess is there's some kind of love affair or something going on there. I'm joking, of course, but what? Anyway, so the question to you and the audience is, if you can see that someone, at one point she was reading from a piece of paper. You've heard me say this before. I had asked her, why are we doing it like this? She says, we're required by state law, and she had a piece of paper and she read exactly what the rule was. I guess she figured nobody would go look it up, because we did. There is no such rule, not anywhere in the Oregon Revised Statutes, not anywhere. She completely made it up. One time when it's like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and this is not a mistake either. This is a knowing lie.
It's like a 6-year-old who sees a parent's driving and he thinks this is driving, okay? Because we get up and we do our research, and we have videotape, and we have eyewitnesses, and we have their documents, and we present this. If it's just my opinion, I'll tell you, this is just my opinion, okay? My opinion, Mike's a great guy. See, I can be wrong. But the thing is that when we have all that, then that's when we present it. Cheryl Walker, she just literally just makes stuff up. Keith Heck did this too. You remember that? Keith Heck, well, I never said that. You put words in my mouth. We proved that no, we didn't. And he still walks around among us with his head up. How can he even walk with it? Shouldn't his head always be down like this? Because he lied to you. He lied to everybody. He lied in an official email to all department heads. Please come and support me. And I'm not aware that he got any support at all.
You know what? I think a lot of people really don't care about that, and I see them all the time. I go about propagating some of our videos and stuff that we do in social media, and you run into a lot of these people, and it really blows my mind. They really don't want to be reminded of somebody lying to them. I suppose that probably depends on which side of the aisle they come from or something like that, but they're not interested.
Okay, I'll give you an example of their answers to this, because many times you can judge whether you're on the right side or the wrong side by what the other guys are saying, because you want to listen to them, you want to know their arguments, like we do about the levy. I could go on all night, but I won't. Good. About why the levy can be a good thing, okay? I'm not going to do that, because Mike is still feeling hurt from the last time that I beat him on that. So Mark Gatlin said the other day, he says, that Dale Matthews, he's a liar. And the person he said it to said, well, why would you say that? And I'll tell you why I would say that, why he said that. There was a little boy that drowned in the river. You may recall this story. And the parents had let their, I'm going to tell you to the best of my knowledge. Maybe this is not 100% true. I read it in the Courier. Okay, so we already know it's not 100% true. And apparently their daughter was watching after him and not paying as close attention as she probably should have, and the little boy drowned in the river. Mark Gatlin at the time was running for county commissioner, and so in my opinion, what he did was he said, oh, I want to talk about that. And they were like, okay, Mark, because they were actually he was doing this a lot at that point, coming to a lot of the meetings and then never showing up ever again after he lost. Never again after he lost. And he said, well, you know what, one sign, two signs, three signs, I'm paraphrasing, isn't enough. We ought to have, a dozen signs there, and if we had lots more signs. And I got up after he did, and I said, look, if you've got parents who are not watching after their most treasured possession in this world, I'm so sorry for them. But if they're not watching after their most treasured possession, putting up a sign saying, pay attention to your kids, is not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's right.
So his answer was, that Dale Matthews is a liar. What part's a liar? He said that that's not going to be enough, and that's a lie. That's not a lie. That's a difference of opinion.
Yes.
It's a horrible circumstance. I will agree with you. Don't you feel sorry? Of course I feel sorry. But is that going to do it? You have 12 signs saying, watch your children. If, sorry, but if you're not really going to watch your children, a sign telling you to watch your children isn't going to do it. That, for Mark Gatlin, is a lie. So when you have people around you say, Dale Matthews, he's the biggest liar in the world. First of all, ask him, why aren't you including Mike Jones? And
Yes.
and on the second hand, you say, well, tell me exactly.
How do you know they don't?
Yes, tell me exactly what it is that he lied about, because I try to be really, really careful about such things. Another one that's come up fairly recently, and again and again and again, is I got two sources coming in to me personally from the Republican Central Committee locally, and they told me independently, they talked to me, I'm not a Republican, and they said, here's what happened at a meeting, and they blamed Harry Mackin for it. I got up at a weekly business session, and without mentioning them by name, because both of them asked not to be mentioned, okay, it's not my favorite kind of journalism, but that does happen sometimes, I said two people from the Republican Central Committee said this. I'm quoting them. My quote was accurate. That's exactly what they said. So Diane Mackin came after me right after, well, you got to tell me the names or you're a liar. No, that's not lying. In journalism, you tell the truth about what the people said to you. If you don't identify the source, and some people go to jail for not identifying their sources, that is okay journalism. And so when Harry had something to say about me behind my back, I called him. I said, Harry, I understand you're talking about me behind my back. Do you want to tell me here on the telephone, more or less to my face? Well, you said this and this. I said, Harry, your argument is with those fellow members, and you probably already know who they are, of the Republican Central Committee who said these things about you. I quoted them. They said, here's what happened at this meeting. I'm not invited to that meeting. I don't know for sure, but if you have an argument, it's with them.
Right.
It's not a lie. It may not be the entire truth, but there, all we can do is quote people. Now, unless you watch the videotape, and they'll never let us videotape that, you're not going to know whether the courier's telling the truth or we are. But we're telling you that there was over $100,000 cost overrun with the Dimick Tower, and the courier's not even that there's a controversy, not there's even a question, not even, oh, that terrible person Dale Matthews asked this question, that even worse person Mike Jones also asked a question. They're not saying any of that. So who do you think's telling you the truth? Mike, who do you think's telling you the truth, buddy?
I have no idea. It could be anybody.
Thank you for that unsolicited endorsement, Mike Jones.